We have more processing power sitting on our desks than any generation before us, yet sitting down to start a simple task often feels exhausting. Instead of acting as an accelerator, the modern machine frequently traps us in a claustrophobic maze of our own making. This exhaustion comes from friction. It is not physical effort. It is the mental tax you pay every time you search for a misplaced document, struggle to remember the context of an email, or spend 5 minutes reorienting to a project you abandoned yesterday. The trap begins with how we treat the computer itself. We treat it like a passive storage unit, a giant digital attic where we toss files and hope we can find them later. If we strip away the software jargon, work is actually a very simple action. It is the process of taking an item in an unfinished state and moving it to a finished state. To remove the friction standing in the way of that movement, we have to stop hoarding software and start deliberately designing a workshop. True digital productivity does not arrive by downloading the newest app. It arrives when you engineer an environment that inherently reduces the friction of starting. We can begin by redefining the basic folder. It is a decision made in advance about where information belongs. By choosing a home for a project today, your future self doesn't have to waste time solving the same placement problem tomorrow. A file, then, is a promise. It carries the identity of a task, its context, and its integrity safely across time. But keeping files safe introduces a new problem. We often confuse the act of storing information with the possession of knowledge. Storage means a file exists somewhere on a hard drive. Knowledge requires the ability to retrieve that exact, relevant piece of information precisely when your current task demands it. Hoarding files without a reliable retrieval strategy gives you a false sense of security. You are actively increasing the cognitive friction your future self will have to fight through just to begin working. This friction multiplies when we confuse a task with a workflow. Checking off 10 isolated boxes on a to-do list does not mean you have built a functioning system. A true workflow operates like a river, moving through 4 specific states. Inputs arrive, actions transform the material, decisions change the direction, and final checks protect the output. For this river to flow, it requires an operator, and that operator relies on a strictly limited, non-renewable daily resource, your attention. This chart represents your daily attention budget. When we try to stretch this capacity by multitasking, we are actually forcing rapid reorientation. Jumping between an email, a document, and a chat window carries a massive switching cost that rapidly drains your mental reserves. We have to distinguish the stimulus-driven noise, interruptions that arrive uninvited, from goal-directed focus, where you deliberately choose the signals you want to process. The ultimate purpose of a workflow is to act as a shield, protecting your fragile attention budget from the chaos of the digital world. When we introduce artificial intelligence into this environment, it is tempting to assume an agent can take over the entire workshop and run workflows autonomously. A well-designed workshop follows a strict rule for AI integration. Models propose, tools act, but human control decides. Systems break down when humans lazily delegate their own certainty to a machine. If an AI generates text and we store it as fact without verifying the evidence, that hallucination travels forward into future work. Firm, AI is an incredibly powerful instrument, but it cannot replace responsibility. Human judgment must remain the final, non-delegable review gate before any output is finalized. Once your individual workshop is running cleanly, you can scale it through collaboration. This requires the safe, clear handoff of context and responsibility between you and other operators. But even the best systems face disruptions. When that happens, simply owning a secondary hard drive with duplicated files will not save your momentum. A proper backup is a tested path home. It is a verified, practiced route to return your workshop to a trusted state after a failure, a mistake, or a sudden flood of new requests. A fully realized digital workshop is organized by the outcomes you want to achieve, protected by human review, and intentionally stripped of unnecessary friction. Organizing your laptop is ultimately about designing how your mind moves. You can learn how to build this architecture for yourself by exploring the framework in the Workshop Before the Work by Ravindra Nayak.